In a small lab in Boston, a team of dedicated scientists, doctors, and geneticists push the boundaries of medical knowledge.
It's really hard to know where to look if we don't know exactly what we are looking for. It's useful to not stop looking.
The Undiagnosed Diseases Network takes on cases that most would dismiss as too complex, too perplexing, or simply too rare to solve.
So there's thousands of these undiagnosed patients.
Massachusetts General Hospital is one of 15 locations nationwide, offering expertise in advanced medical genetics.
We're actually looking for cases that really have already exhausted the clinical care that's available.
The UDN takes a deep dive, searching for patterns, connecting research, data, and doctors from around the world.
Our chromosomes and our genes are just really complex. We're just beginning to scratch the surface.
Yeah, he never complains, so whatever is thrown at him, he just takes it.
19-year-old Rithvik Kotpalli wasn't dealt an easy hand in life. His mother, Lakshmi, recalls his first symptom, an extended abdomen, was noticed even before he was born.
So when he was born, he was almost stuck. He could not come out because his belly was so big.
Doctors drained the fluid and sent the happy new family home, unaware of the frightening, decades-long health battle that lay ahead.
By the time he was 2, he was not able to digest any food.
An endoscopy would lead to more questions and yet even more medical challenges.
When he came out of the anesthesia, he did not look right. They did an MRI and it was his first stroke,
leaving his whole left side paralyzed.
When he was 4 or 5, he started feeling weak in his legs.
Yeah, he used to collapse.
So we took him to a neurologist and they did not do an MRI, and she said maybe he was just weak because his nutrition is different.
At the age of 8, after one of his more than 30 surgeries, Rithvik didn't wake up.
I can still remember the look on the doctor's face. He had a major stroke.
He affected 1/6 of his brain.
1/6.
Yeah, it was gone just like that.
And another diagnosis, cerebral vasculitis, a condition that causes inflammation of the blood vessels in the brain. For 15 years, the Kotpalli family lived in a constant state of what's next.
We lost count how many times we ended up calling 911 or maybe running to hospital in the middle of the night.
But in 2021, the UDN made a fascinating discovery. Dr. David Sweetser was searching for an expert to explain some of Rithvik's symptoms. Did they all connect somehow? Turns out that expert was right down the hall.
He had a very particular pattern in the vasculature that showed them very straightened out in the brain, very narrowed. At the same time that other parts of the vasculature were dilated. Every organ that had this type of cells called smooth muscle cells were affected or not functioning correctly. And I thought this is a smooth muscle disease for sure. Teams did the right genetic testing. They sent a panel where this particular variant on the contractile proteins of the smooth muscle appear, and they were negative. And they sent them again, and they were negative.
Most of the genetic diseases that researchers know about today are caused by mutations in protein-coding genes. There are 23,000 in the human body. There are 10 times as many non-coding genes, but genetic testing doesn't look there.
This is the first genetic non-coding vascular disease that has ever been found.
Rithvik had no answers because, as it turns out, there was no diagnostic map.
They have to look even further into these parts of the DNA that do not produce proteins but regulate those parts of the genome that produce the proteins.
Rithvik is the only known person in the world with this particular mutation of the microRNA, opening an entire chapter of human disease.
You know, if he's lucky, hopefully he will find a treatment maybe next 5 to 10 years. But if not, we hope that it will help, generations down the line.
And as you just heard, Hrithvik is the only person in the world known to be diagnosed with his condition.
But as with many rare diseases, there likely are many who are undiagnosed because the symptoms are so unique and diverse. The Undiagnosed Diseases Network has about 3,000 patients. More than 800 of them, though, have received a diagnosis.
All right, coming up, a mother searches for answers.